Hey, what's up guys? So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at countermeasure installs here on motorcycles. Now, I know a lot of you guys have been asking about different radar detectors and laser jammers and mounting solutions specifically for motorcycles, but I'm kind of the wrong person to ask since I don't ride myself and I don't know all the ins and outs of this. However, today we've actually got a special guest here. This is Doug, better known as DC Fluid from RDF. So how's it going, Doug?
Hi guys.
Hey.
Great, thank you. Pleasure to be here, Ariel.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming out. So I'm actually really excited to take a look at your setup. I know you've got a bunch of cool stuff installed here. So let's just do like a kind of tour of your bike and tell us about kind of everything that you got installed here.
Sure, it'd be my pleasure. Let's do it. Well, I have a radar detector mount and radar detectors. I've got just about every detector I can mount on there. I've got a phone that I run multiple apps through to an audio system in the helmet. So I've got a Sena, small little sleek Sena outfit. It's called a 10R to get audio inside the helmet.
Okay.
And you can buy helmets specifically with little speaker pockets. I don't know if you can see that.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. And this is all wireless or is it wired?
This is wireless,
Okay.
right? So everything goes through the phone. So I can listen to Google Maps, I can listen to music, I can listen to JBV1 for radar detector alerts. Anything at all that your phone makes for a noise, I can hear in here. I also got a little FM radio on the side here. I don't really use it. I just listen to my Amazon Music or Spotify or something.
What about as far as laser jamming equipment? What all do you have installed?
I have my personal ALP system. I got RX and TX up front. So there's my TX and there's my RX.
And I know right now we've also got another setup installed for testing too.
Yeah, this is the TPX motorcycle system. So we were testing it. So we glued it right to the pre-leveled heads of the ALP.
So ALP regular, TPX, and then ALP TX, and then the other TPX.
Yeah, it's a TX black. So I've got the same on the back is an RX, and the TX is down here.
There, TX here.
So I've on here I'm about 21 inches above the ground.
Okay.
On that there, so I got plenty of height, and we put the TPX right on top of that there.
For testing, yeah. So ALP you can do two heads in the rear, and then TPX we've got the one. And we'll talk about more the test results a little bit more here in a bit too.
You betcha.
So okay, cool. So that's the walk around as far as the initial tour. Tell me about radar detectors. So let's talk about mounting solutions, powering solutions, detector choice, etc.
Well, it's been a long evolution. I started with some really cheap Amazon mounts and power adapters and stuff like that. In the end, I got the good old hard wires with a braided cable, you know, off eBay, universal type of escort mount, whatever. It's directly wired into my battery. I've got a little voltage buffer thing there. I use the RAM magnetic mount, so all my detectors I can put the steel plate on, and you just slide it into the pocket, and it is strong. A couple of rare earth magnets in there, and you twist it and turn it off to bust it off. So I've never had one do anything other than what it was supposed to being on there.
That's really good. Yeah, I'd be curious if they'd fall off, you hit a bump or something.
And with my bike and the shape of the handlebars, and I've got some steel in the windshield here that really prevented a low mount. So I had to get the tall arm to get it up, to give it a clear view ahead.
Okay.
And when I use some other detectors, I also like, here's my R7 that I used for a couple years ahead of time. I also like it because I can get a speed limit display.
Okay. Yeah, that's really handy.
And I got the bigger display and stuff like that. So you get some information on there because, as you can see, I got no gauges here for heads-up display. I just got this inaccurate tank-mounted speedo. Very hard to read down on there. I like keeping my eyes and my heads up on here.
So how much of this are you actually looking at while you're riding?
I keep this in the bottom of my field of vision.
Okay.
I ignore this down here unless I see a light come on. I have my ALP light right here. Don't mind the temporary TPX wires there. So I can catch that in the bottom of my peripheral vision. It also conveniently reflects a blue line up here and turns to red on an alert on my light sometimes. So most lighting conditions, I can get a flash right on the heads-up display of my windshield. It's just a reflection off of this. But I use the screen here for navigation, for radar alerts, ALP, anything as a visual. But I tend to mostly do all my alerting with audio. It's safer. I've got my eyes on the road. When I hear that very important KA alert or laser alert, I'm instantly taking action, and then I'll look and see what the detector or the ALP is telling me I'm facing. One of the things you're always doing on a motorcycle is scanning visually for threats. And again, you've got this sort of a window here to look out of, right? So you're looking like that, and you're constantly moving and scanning and looking ahead. You really don't want to be taking your eyes off the road and searching around for stuff or fiddling with stuff.
That makes sense, yeah.
I'm really happy with the location of this for me being heads up. A lot of other motorcycles have the displays and instruments and stuff much more heads up right in front of you. I'm not a fan of the tank mounted, but that's what I've got and that's what I've had to deal with. So I adapted.
How about powering all this stuff? Do you have it hardwired? Does it go, like, how did you actually handle the wiring?
Originally, like I did this 12 volt here with just a hard wire to the battery for a power thing. I've got two USBs here, so I can power the phone, I can power the DS1.
Oh, cool, okay.
And this again is the hard wire. I go down right into battery power under the seat. So most motorcycles have a battery under the seat, cram full of space. So I mean, I've got some tuners in here for performance on the bike, which I have disconnected because I've done another program with the CPO, but I have an ALP Bluetooth controller in here. Okay. This is to give me a steady 12 volt power, like a noise suppressor. So I don't get feedback through the phone when I'm plugged in multiple devices to the power of the battery.
Gotcha.
You know how you get alternator noise in some vehicles and stuff like that. So it's an isolator. I'm not even sure if I need it. It's there, right? And it gave me another source. Here I have a bunch of ALP wires coming from the back and also heading up the front. I took the tank all off and routed it up the frame of the motorcycle where the factory runs its wires, and came out up front here. Okay, and I've routed it through underneath my light bar and then out underneath the light bar to the sensors out here. So just trying to follow the original path of factory wiring and keep things concealed. Motorcyclists are a little bit vain about looks. I'm not too crazy about it.
What about the ALP CPU? Looks like it runs to the back.
Yeah, so it's not a weatherproof CPU. I've done my best. I've tried to store it here. I've just double-sided taped it to the inside of my saddlebag. And all the cables came through here, so I've had to make some pretty large holes because of the connectors.
Right, yeah.
And then I siliconed and sealed them all back up. I have the hi-fi module, the GPS. It's just a hard plastic with leather-covered case, so it picks up the GPS, right? This here is my rears, which I just installed before coming down here.
Got a lot of extra cable since these are designed originally for cars.
Yeah, so this storage space is a premium on a motorcycle. So if you're going to go front and rear, that's all the wiring that you have to stash somewhere with an ALP to get in there. So if you could shorten up and give us a 3 or 4 foot cable instead of car length cables, that would be a great option to have to shorten things up.
For sure.
I can actually get right inside here with one of the sensors off the back. See, that goes right to one of the sensors here on the back. but I still have to use the cable to adapt to even plug it into the CPU. So that's all wasted space and storage.
That makes sense. I know you just did the TPX install as well. Did they have shorter cables, or how
They
was that?
did have shorter cables, and these are the cables here, and they're thin. So the ALPs are almost like a power line compared to these ones. These ones would be so much easier to install on a motorcycle,
Yeah.
and just to route along the path of least resistance and wiggle it through. You got to watch sharp corners and route it and pin it back and tie wrap it all back. So you can see here I've got lots of tie wrapping happening with accessory wiring and ALP stuff, right?
Sure, and maybe after this we'll go inside since it's raining out here. We can kind of talk a little bit more about your preferences on radar detectors and laser jammers and testing, and we can go over all that too.
You betcha.
But while we're out there, what other things did you that you thought are maybe interesting and specific to motorcycles that are different compared to when you're driving in a car?
Well, weather is huge.
Yeah. Speaking of rain, how do you handle that?
Well, Glad has my most cost-effective solution, right? And you can cover up radar detectors very easily like that, and it stays in place. Choke it off with a good elastic band, and carry on. You can put it under a plastic bag, and if you're all Bluetooth or even wired with a cable, my R7, of course, doesn't have Bluetooth, so I do use a little speaker. So this is my backup. I have another helmet with speakers wired right in for hard wiring.
Okay.
But here I can plug into my R7. I love things that come with these little 3.5 jacks. Most radar detectors do. The Pro-M didn't, and that was my first radar detector purchase. So on to the second and third, right?
So is that a speaker or is that a Bluetooth?
This is just
transmitter,
a little, it's got a little lithium battery in it. It's a powered amplified speaker.
Okay.
Because I can't get it in the ear pockets of this helmet, I just pop this in underneath the visor and I leave it right in the front. It fits in the front of the helmet.
Interesting.
So now you...
Okay. I was always curious if you like wire directly to your helmet or you have like a Bluetooth to your helmet, or I guess that seems simpler.
You know, this is a great emergency backup, and you can use any detector. So if you have a failure of your Bluetooth system, or you run out of battery power and don't have a way to charge your Senna or Cardo pack, something like this is a cheap little Amazon purchase to get any radar detector with a 3.5 output jack to give you sound.
That's cool. I can put a link to that and I guess all the other stuff you talk about down in the description. It's a bunch of cool stuff. Speaking of like putting that under your helmet, do you have any lights in the helmet or anything visual?
I have nothing in the helmet visual. All my alerts, I rely heavily on the audio, and then the heads-up display in front of me. So what's really interesting is like I use JBV1 or highway radar, and you get that flash alert that is an option.
The screen flasher, yeah.
So when I get, my phone starts flashing blue and I get that KA chirp in my helmet, instantly you know to take action, depending on the level of alert, but you're always right there. You're a fingertip away from scrubbing speed.
For sure.
You know, some of the other ones, I put different colors, different sounds. The more piercing and brighter my alert, the more likely I am to take action on it. So I've become very familiar with, say, my KA alerts or laser alerts of taking action, and then the other ones are, okay, let's investigate why I'm getting this K-band signal here, you know.
What about as far as like maybe muting signals or interfacing with the phone to mark something on Waze? Like how does it work to communicate back to the phone?
Muting, I end up, it's real simple. I can mute with a button press on the Senna.
Okay.
So I've got volume up, volume down, mute, power off. So I mean, if I pull up to a stop, I can leave everything running. I can just turn, the little blue flashing light there is on, right? So I can push and hold, it says goodbye and red light. Now it's off. So
Okay.
it's off, right? And then you push 2 buttons. Again, 1 button press, up in volume, down in volume. I can receive phone calls. I just press and hold that for, I just tap that when I got an incoming call.
Uh-huh.
I can pause my music, play, pause, skip songs.
That sounds way better than trying to do it on the phone. while
Yeah,
riding.
you just put your hand on the side of your head, and this is made so you can feel it through gloves,
Uh-huh.
right? So you can do the different button presses, and you can do it all. I have a hard time with gloves, even when you get motorcycle-specific touch gloves and stuff. Supposed to be touch screen sensitive. You can't do anything with these apps with them. You're taking a glove off, you're tucking it under your lap, and you're doing something. It's a real process, okay? So I probably, the headset works good on audio. I probably have to learn how to trigger stuff on audio, but I failed doing it in my truck. I've seen people say, okay, Google, mark this location.
Like the voice alerts?
And I'd love to get a little bit of a tutorial on how to set up my Samsung phone to receive those and do what I said, because every time I've tried to do it, I fail and I give up, right? I don't have time in my life to figure that out.
Yeah, I know
and
Waze
struggle
and
with it.
Howie Radar and JVV1, they support that too. Have you played around with those apps and their voice controls?
A little bit. I found, like, driving along in my truck, it would trigger for no reason when you're driving along. Something on the radio would trigger it or something like that. So I just, for now, I've turned them off, but I could see on the motorcycle it being a big benefit of being totally hands-free.
Right.
And that's something I'm going to investigate and learn how to do in the future and see if I can make it work. But you've got so much noise on a motorcycle. Wind noise alone is a reason to wear earplugs. So in my helmet, you think, hey, that keeps noise out. No, the wind noise itself, and then all the motor noise and everything else, you got to wear earplugs. You can't go for long rides and not expect to end up deaf far earlier in life than you are. Anybody serious about bikes recommends earplugs.
Cool. Well, thanks for the walk-around tour. Let's go head inside now. I got some more questions. We can talk about different radar detector choices and testing that you've done on your bike here, etc.
Excellent.